Hello and welcome. Now today, I kind of want to talk about the price of hot rods, muscle cars, pony cars, all that good stuff, and the price of parts. Now some of it, not really worth me touching, or I don't want to touch it because it's politics. Inflation happens, cost of aftermarket parts go up, the value of the dollar dropped, all that good stuff, so price is naturally going to go up. But now I'm going to talk about the other aspect of the car prices and try to get some of this in order, straightened up, all that good stuff. The one I'm going to start off with is generational. And I hear a lot of people complaining about, like, the baby boomers. And it's their fault this, their fault that. Well, you want to blame a single generation, and it's not their fault. And you could try to argue that point all day long, but I'm going to tell you why it's not their fault. It's not a single generation's fault. Before, people were blaming the baby boomers. Other generations, such as, what was it, silent generation, stuff like that. The old school hot rods and all that. I remember watching the auctions way back in the day. In like the 30s hot rods, the 40s hot rods, and the 50s classics. They'd become unaffordable, where at one time they were affordable, much like the muscle cars, the 60s, 70s, stuff like that, right? Because that generation was trying to relive their youth. It happens. It's going to happen with every single generation. So you can't get mad at one generation because the next generation is going to do the same thing over and over and over again. It's kind of a human nature, if you will. But you also got to think, not a single decade of car was enjoyed by a single generation. So let's take those 30s, 40s, and 50s, for example, that were sky high for a while. The baby boomers did enjoy some of that because they were cheap back then, and they were able to get those cars and hot rod them too. So yes, the price did go up, and they were kind of out of the range for them at the time. Well, once that generation pretty much, well, not all passed away, but they started thinning out. Those cars came a little cheaper. The next decade of car got a little more expensive, and it's going to repeat the cycle. These cars are going to be expensive, get cheaper, while these cars over here get expensive and cheap. We're going to just do that this whole time. Eventually the 90s models cars are going to be extremely expensive. And then other people will be blaming another generation. But again, there are multiple generations that enjoy the 90s cars, 80s cars, etc. It's supply and demand. The more demand for a car, the more valuable the car. We see that all the time, because just because it's rare doesn't mean it's valuable either. And that happens a lot too. So, I think of it that way, is that the value on the cars, because they are good cars and people want to enjoy them again. And there's nothing you can do to prevent that. Now, the next couple of topics kind of go along with part of the reason why they're also so expensive, and it is how many is out there versus demand. And that's where we kind of get to a point of what can we do to change that? And that's kind of what my biggest point of this is. And that comes into several factors, such as, I'm going to take dirt track, roundy rounders, all that for an example here first, before I go into the next one. Because I have seen, and even in the last 5 years, that some people have been taking Firebird formulas from the 70s, the second generation cars, we'll say that, Camaros, and putting them on the dirt track. And I'm not talking about just your base Camaro that had a V6 or whatever, the base model Firebird. No, not the. Some of them aren't taking the 305, Camaros, or like I said, the V6 Camaros, Firebirds, whatever. The average run-of-the-mill car. No, I've seen them go grab Trans Ams, formulas, Z28s, SSs. That still happens. which is making those cars harder to get. And thus for there's less of them, causing the price to go up. Now, as a car community, we kind of need to stop that. And I do realize that back in the day, my dad and his buddies did run on an asphalt circle track, and they did run 55s, stuff like that, and some of the 60s models cars like Chevelles and GTOs on a circle track back in the day. Now, they destroyed a bunch of cars. There's other people in the 60s, 70s that destroyed a bunch of cars like that, like taking them out in the orchard fields and racing them and tearing them up, going to salvage yard, getting another one. That's almost no different than right now going to get a Mustang, Challenger, Charger, or a Camaro out of a salvage yard now because there's so plentiful of them. So back then they didn't really think about it, much like most people right now are not thinking about the modern cars in the salvage yard because you're thinking, oh, there's just so many of them. 40, 50 years down the road, it's going to change your mind. But the problem is some people are still doing that. And like I said, I've seen that. Seen one guy just last, I think it's 4 or 5 years ago, get a Firebird Formula. Who cares? It's just Firebird. It's a Formula. And you're going to take it on a dirt track and destroy it. Now granted, I get it, they put panels back on it and keep racing it, but how often do you ever see a dirt track car that's been stripped down and all that ever return to the street? Very rarely. So it kind of hurts that too. You could say drag racers do it, but I've seen so many drag racers, they cage their car, they'll straighten the cage, put another aftermarket front clip. At least those are still around, you know. And a lot of drag racers are gone to chassis with all aftermarket parts to look like a car. Some are still real cars, and you know, of course, you know, you have dirt track guys that do B mods and all that are all chassis and aluminum body panels. You know, they're not taking real cars anymore on those specific classes and turning them into pure stock. Oh, but if they keep grabbing the second gen Camaros and Firebirds and all that, they're just going to keep being fewer and fewer of them left for later for people to enjoy. Which leads me to, let's take these two here for example, these two B bodies. It's Bonneville and the Granville. And this is really one that, more so than the rest of them, that is hurting the value, hurting the cost of cars and all that. Because you get told by several people, supposedly in the car community, that think they know what they're talking about, no one wants to build a big car. No one wants a Bonneville. No one wants a Granville. That's not true. People love Bonnevilles, Catalinas, Granvilles, Impalas, the big cars. There are still people out there that enjoy the big cars. They love the big cars. One of the biggest problems is, for the longest time, demolition derbies have taken a lot of four-door cars and destroyed them. That's the problem. You just destroyed the car. Put in demolition derby, you 100% destroy the car. And you argue all you want, you destroy the car. All the body panels on it are shot unusable after that. And cars like that, it's okay. The GTO right here, this 70, I can buy most everything repop for it, fenders, all that good stuff, all that to fix it. These, no. So what people were doing back in the day to build their big cars, you know, the Impalas, all that, Catalina, Bonneville, they found the four doors and took parts from the four doors and fixed the two doors and put them back on the road. Cool. You know? So a lot of people did. Well, they're getting harder to find, which brings the value up, and then no one wants to build them because they're like, I can't get this part, I can't get that part, I can't get the grills, I can't get this, because those parts are getting harder to find. Now, some of the demolition derby guys did take off what they couldn't run the demolition derby and sell those parts, granted. But still, there's a lot of parts on there that got destroyed. But also, I've recently had people wanting to buy two-door hardtops for demolition derby cars. Like that one, which drives me up the wall because it's two-door hardtop, all original. With 117,000 miles, everything is there on that car. Everything is on it. It's a two-door hardtop. I believe they only made 11,000 that year. So it's like, why would you want to take something like that and destroy it? And of course, people's asked about the Bonneville. This running, driving Bonneville that is in great shape. That is 95% rust-free. And they want to demolition derby that car too. That's ridiculous. That's destroying good cars. Those people, in my opinion, are not true car people. They're completely destroying the car purposely. Now you can get to the, well, drag racers destroy cars on purpose. No, they don't. They're not out there actually trying to destroy the car on purpose. They're trying to win the race. Most people let off and lift and try to save the car and all that good stuff. Now, you also have to take a risk of driving in traffic and getting the car destroyed too, which is unfortunate because traffic sucks and people don't drive like they used to. No one has respect for anybody anymore. So driving an old car out in public is a risk too. But taking these and smashing them into each other on purpose, no, you're just making parts harder to find for other people. Cars more expensive because something's going to happen there. If they start buying all the two-door hardtops to take the demolition derbies, either A, people are going to start raising the prices on these where people won't want to put them in demolition derbies, or demolition derby is going to destroy more of them, make the price go up because you can't find them anymore. And some of these big body cars, not everybody wants a muscle car or a pony car to go fast. Some people want a cruiser. You know, the car hobby is not all about going fast. You know, so, like I said, some people enjoy a good cruiser. These cars right here like this, they're your great cruisers. They ride so smooth, old school, all that good stuff. So to me, you just don't want to destroy them. So as a car community, we already know what's happening and going on. There's no lie about it that electric versus gas and all that good stuff. A lot of people are getting out of the hobby. A lot of people don't understand things like, one other thing is, let's already talk about this one. Streetcar takeovers. Okay? Street takeovers, whatever you want to call them. Doing donuts around intersections, all that stupid stuff. And they're tearing up cars. Now granted, they're mostly the newer cars, right? More modern. Alright, eventually those cars are going to get rare just like the old ones. Take that into consideration. And as a car community, we need to try to, one, get more people involved in the hobby. The price is going up, even on these, because these could be a good entry level for some people. The price keeps going up. And that drives people away from the car hobby. So some things we need to do is, A, save the cars. Save them. You know, don't have a hoarder mentality and save them all up and just keep them piled up in your backyard. No, you can see I've gotten rid of some. So there's less here than what there was before. But I got them from someone who had been holding them for ages and sold them to people who are going to build them. So I got them out there. And, you know, so we need to save the car as much as we can. Now, something like this right here, this is a true GTO. Now, another thing we need to stop doing is a couple things such as, I'm going to use GTO for example because it's a good example. People disrespect people with clones and all that stuff. Who cares? You know what? My thing is, if you build it, enjoy it. You know, the GTOs are getting out of hand on price, just like the Chevelle SS's and all that good stuff. You know, well, entry-level person, they want a GTO, but they can't afford it. There's nothing wrong with taking Tempest or Le Mans and making you a GTO clone, as long as you're not trying to pass it off when you sell it as a real GTO or something like that. Same thing with an SS. You know, you take a Malibu, turn it into a Chevelle SS, make it look cool, and enjoy it. And again, as long as you don't try to pass off as real deal, try to screw someone over, there's nothing wrong with it. And you get the people who are just like, they want to knock you for it. And as long as it's done right. Now, there's some things I'm going to say, like, you shouldn't take something like a Le Mans that has 350 Le Mans emblems, all that, and turn it into a GTO and leave your 350 Le Mans emblems on it, or have the wrong parts on it that you can obviously tell is Le Mans. Same thing with Chevelle. You don't want to build a Chevelle SS and have a 305 in it, or, you know, stuff like that. You know, if you're going to do it, at least do it right. You know, just don't do it weird and make it look obvious it was done. But some of the, I'll call them lawn chair people, the car shows, you know. Car shows are great, gets people out there, keeps it looking, but some of the people at car shows does hurt the car community too, because the way they act, the way they talk. Some of them talk down on other car people. You know, let's be honest, your car doesn't have to be perfect to enjoy it. So, let's enjoy them, you know. Let's run. That one runs already. That one runs. Put some brakes on it, put that bumper back on. You can drive it as is. Who cares if it looks, you know, kind of bad? You still get to enjoy it, you know? And you get all that conflict in the car community where some of them are like, they're car shows only, you know, keep them in a garage, don't race them, all that good stuff. And, like, let's be honest, cars like GTO, Chevelle, they were made to be raced. They were made to be driven. All cars are made to be driven. This was made to be driven down the highway and enjoyed. We need to do that. Yeah, there's a risk getting hit. There's a risk getting hit all the time on the road. The ideal of perfection's kind of hurting it too. But we need to try to save all the cars. Get more people into the car hobby. Get cars like these out there so more people see them, more people enjoy them, more people want them. We need to start getting them out of the fields and all that, and not doing this barn find BS where, well, this, and now because it's got barn dust on it, it's worth $20,000 more because it hadn't been touched in ages. You stop you right there. It hadn't been touched in ages. That's a lot of work you got to do to that car to get it back on the road where you can enjoy it. Well, let's stop that too. I mean, I get it. That's part of driving the prices up too. You know, if it hadn't been touched in a long time, sorry, it needs too much work. Now, your concourse restoration guys and all that, I get it. You do that and that, but that's not for your average car guy. So, find a bar and find cheap, fix it and put it on the road. Enjoy it. This may seem like an odd rant. I'm going to stop there, but remember, get them on the road, drive them even if they're not perfect. It don't matter. Try to help your fellow car enthusiast. Don't gouge the next person. There is obviously a value in everything. Inflation, prices have gone up, understandable. But don't destroy them on purpose. Save what you can save. And let's keep the car hobby going and getting more people into it, because then they have more of a fighting chance to keep it going. As always, thanks for watching.